Hello everybody and welcome back to Hellbound Garage. As you can tell, the Datsun 280Z is still on its side, but it has been curing for plenty of time, so now we can actually work on it without any worries of the bed liner chipping, peeling, whatnot while it cured. And today we're going to hopefully finish up on the chassis prep slash prevention, I guess you could call it. Let me show you what I'm talking about. And what I mean by that, we're going to be using this stuff here. This is Eastwood's internal frame coating. I have been debating on whether or not to actually use this product, but because we've gone this far, we're going to go ahead and give this a whirl. The reason I've been debating on it is my aftermarket frame rails that I installed are seam sealed and welded onto the original frame rails of the car. Now the original frame rails, because they were beaten and bashed, I actually cut out the centers of the original frame rails and had to squish them in a little bit for the Bad Dog frame rails to slip over. But the Bad Dog frame rails do not have any drain holes, so these are completely solid and sealed. Now I did paint the inside of the new frame rails as well as the existing frame rails that were on the car, so in theory they should be coated, but I'm not entirely sure. So we are going to do this just to give it one extra step, as well as there are a few other areas on the back side of the car, as well as these inner frame rails, or the frame rails that are in the engine bay, that are all factory. So I want to go ahead and try and coat those as well. I do have another product that I want to try that is going to not going to seam seal, it's going to seal the inside of the fenders. Even though we have the seam sealer on the outside, I do have a product that I want to use on the inside just to make sure that no rust happens inside the fender wells. So these guys come in every can of the internal frame coating, and that's so you can reach inside the frame and coat as much as possible. Down here in this corner, you can see that tip is, we'll focus here. That tip is supposed to be a 360-degree spray pattern, so it coats as much as possible on the inside. Problem is after you take them out of this bag, they stay exactly like this, are all curled up and everything. So the first thing I had to do was this. And well, you can't tell, but I took a little bit of heat to the hose to straighten it out. I put the head lightly in a vise, stretched it out, and then took a little bit of heat, and now for the most part, yeah, I know it's a little weird, it's straight instead of this, because out of the, literally stays like that. So a little bit of heat, or maybe even some weld wire would work, some nice thin weld wire. I've seen people use that just to get this straightened out so you can actually use the hose the way it's meant to be. Alright, so after you've gotten your straw or your hose, whatever you may want to call it, straightened out with either weld wire or heat, be cautious with the heat. You have to decide where, or your plan of attack for your frame rails. For me, because my frame rails are brand new and they didn't come with drain holes, I had to drill into my frame rail. I chose this location because it'll go all the way back to the back of my frame rail to where my custom subframe connectors are, and then it'll reach all the way to the front of the frame rail where it once again closes off and has another piece of metal in there. So for me, I only have to drill one hole. I have already pre-fished this in here because, like I said, I do have parts of the existing, parts of the original frame rail inside of here kind of folded over. So the way that you're supposed to do it, move it around and spray as you're going, I can't necessarily do that because I've got one way of getting it through here, and that's how it currently is. I actually had to fight this to get it this direction, where that direction, it was nice and easy. So either way, got my can all shook up, and they do give you both spray heads for whatever reason, even though it's for internal frame coating. But you just simply put the new head on and start spraying. Now there is two options, green and black. I chose black because everything else is black. I don't want to see a green if it does seep out anywhere. Alright, and just like that, I got one part of the frame done. Now I just have to do it for everything else. Make sure you wear gloves, because I guess this stuff can be pretty gnarly on the skin, but it's pretty simple. After you get one done, you just keep on going. It did use a little bit of a can because I did pull slowly, as you saw. So now I need to rinse and repeat. All right, well, that was definitely an experience with that internal chassis coating. It was definitely messy. As you can tell, I'm wearing a different shirt, but I made the mistake of wearing shorts and sandals like I always do, and the stuff sprayed out of a random hole that I wasn't expecting to and coated my leg. So I had a big band from where my sandal crossed my foot. Good times. But anyways, you can kind of see, let me show you. If you notice the black spots on the floor and over there, those are all the spots that the coating managed to leak out of some random holes. Some of them I knew it was going to, some of them I definitely didn't expect, and let me tell you that the spray itself is strong. I mean, I watched it fog out of some of these designated like chassis holes, so very hopeful that the product did its job. On the frame rails themselves, it's a shot in the dark, the frame rails that I added, just because of the OE sections that were still in there, but from what I can see, it looks pretty hopeful. Alright, so the very last thing that I want to do to try and save the chassis as much as possible is going to be using this stuff here. I'm not sure if you can see that, but this is 3M's Cavity Wax Plus. It's kind of like Eastwood's internal frame coating, rather than this is a wax that never dries and will heal itself if it gets nicked for whatever reason. And I'm going to use this on a location that I can reapply it if I need to. And that is going to be in here. Now, the factory kind of does this cool dimple dye thing with their inner rocker panel structure, and they, for some reason, decided not to coat the inside of the rocker panels, even though they had full access to. Or maybe it's been long enough that the coating that they put in there wore off. Either way, we're going to use this stuff, and we are going to recoat that. There's also a couple of dimple dyes up in here that you can't see, probably because of the roll bar, but we're going to hit in here We're gonna hit in here, and then we are gonna go in the back of the car and try and hit the inner fenders on the rear quarters. So let's get to it.
Yeah. Sometimes I get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, I might grab a bat, I don't know. My wrath, my blood boils over like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show. So have you ever felt betrayed? Switches how you see things, realize something needs change. Cause I know you got me f***ed up, let me show you what's up. Cause enough is enough. I'll take a face full of pavement just to make a statement. I know there's no turning back. Oh God, adrenaline wasted, so mad I can taste it. I know there's no turning back. I'll do what it takes, I ain't making mistakes like that.
That stuff was not easy to deal with, and that was only for one specific reason, and the whole reason I left the time lapse in there, and that is because I didn't buy the manufacturer specific wand. So if you saw me in the time lapse try and use the wand that I had, that was from Eastwood's internal frame coating. Works great for their product, makes it super easy to use their product for their product. Using the 3M product, those do not match. I'm not really sure why I didn't bother to check it, but they definitely don't match. I tried to modify that wand to work with the 3M, and it just was a total mess. So I tore all the tape off the holes, and I sprayed directly into the dimple-dyed holes. Luckily, they were spaced out well enough that I managed to coat the inside of the rockers with minimal trouble. You can definitely tell where it's been sprayed with that foamy white color, but it'll protect those areas, make sure that moisture doesn't get to them, and stop any further rust. In the rear quarter panels, it may make like sound deadening possibly harder to lay down in the future, but that is something I'll deal with in the future. For the time being, I'm not really worried about that because race car and I want to get it drivable. I don't care if it sounds like a tin can on the inside. But anyways, we'll get on to the next thing. Alright, so the next thing on the list of things to get done is going to be in this box. Can you see what that label says? This is DEI, or Design Engineering. They are a producer of heat protection products, heat resistant products. Anyways, this is what we're going to be doing next. So this is for the transmission tunnel of the Datsun, and this is specifically going to go on the bottom side of the transmission tunnel, not on the inside. So let me flip you around real quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so I'm going to make a lot of car guys, or Datsun guys, really jealous right now, and that's because I can do things like this. That's right, car's upside down because I built my rotisserie so I can flip the car 360 without ever touching the ground. DIY fabrication for the win. Anyways, this is what I'm talking about. Let me get you in a little closer here. If you can see that, I've already cut this stuff in half. Essentially, I already did the first measurement and cut a strip out of it. But this will line this area of the transmission tunnel. Now, I've been thinking about this for a while. I've had this stuff for about 3 or 4 days now. And before I ordered it, I had thought about a lot of the sizes that I wanted. And I went for their like second largest roll. And now that I look at it, I probably should have got their largest, but it's okay because sorry about the wiggle. Because I already ordered another roll. After looking at this, I automatically ordered another roll. It just won't be here for this video, but I'll get it installed. But anyways, enough being sidetracked. If you notice, I have this completely straight up top, but as I come down, because this is a relatively rigid product, as I come down, you can see it kicks out, and that's because the transmission tunnel widens. So a lot of guys, because they don't have this nice easy way of installing this, they have to use templates. A lot of guys will use like aluminum foil or cardboard, and depends on what your fancy is, what you find is easier to work with. Me, on the other hand, because I have it so easy and I don't have to work on an upside down surface, I can simply lay this stuff out and figure out where it doesn't fit correctly, make my mark, which in this case is going to be here, cut this, re-straighten, and continue going on. So that's what's going to happen with this. This is some nice quality stuff. I'm just feeling it. It's thick, it's got multiple layers to it, should really help. My biggest concern with this car is when I drove it as a tin can after I got the original swap done, it was an oven in the car. If you drove it more than 10 or 15 miles. I drove it to the muffler shop once to get the exhaust fabbed up on it, and I about died, one because of how loud it was, and two, just the overwhelming amount of heat in the engine bay. And that was with the hood off. So heat management has been a big thing on my mind. So this will help with the transmission tunnel. And then we have a few other things that we're gonna do for heat management, kind of like the exhaust header wraps. I'm not sure if I showed that in a video, but we'll go over that later. And I also have another product that will be in this video. But first, let me get this all cut up, and I'll be back after it's done to show you the final result of the material that I have here. Update. So this is where I'm at right now. This is, for the most part, the entire roll. You have a couple of pieces left, but this gives you an idea of what the 50502 part number, floor and tunnel shield 2, the amount of area it'll cover, at least on a Datsun. This is, I think, the 21 by 48 roll. Like I said, I do have another one coming because I do want to get that section over there after thinking about it. Just because this flat area in here, this flat area is where my seat's at. So I really don't want this to cook as much as possible. But the biggest radiant heat area is going to be right in here with the transmission being right here and the exhaust and everything else. So that, well, here, let me get you a little closer. But you can kind of see, I had to cut it in a few pieces. For the most part, it was pretty easy. It's just time consuming, getting the cuts just the way you want them. The material is flexible, but surprisingly inflexible depending on what you're doing, specifically like curves. Car will tip itself back over. But anyways, yeah, so more than anything, just getting the correct angles and everything was the biggest thing on this project. So it's not done yet. So now that I have all the pieces cut and I've got it covered the way I want, there are creases or edges. You know, there are spots in between panels that need to be taken care of. And DEI, or Design Engineering, sells this stuff right here, this cool tape. And this is supposed to seal off the edges of any of the insulation material. Now they got this in silver, they got this in gold, depends on which of their products you decide to buy. but they recommend sealing all of it with the tape. So that is going to be the next thing, and this seems like a finger snap moment just because it's going to be quick and simple. So let's get it done. All right, there we got it. There we have it. I taped off all the edges with this cool tape. I actually pretty much ran out, so I'm not going to be able to do those edges there, or here, or along there. You get the gist. But anyways, for the areas that are covered, turned out really well. If you're wondering about this, because it's stacked metal and there's an air barrier in there, I figured it would kind of act as its own heat sink. We'll find out, and if it doesn't work, well, then I'll just get some more of this material and plop it over that. So for the time being, that part of the project is done. It will change, like I said, once I get the other roll and order some more tape. Probably in the next video I will show you the final product on that, but for the time being, this is what you get, and you get a relatively good idea of what the material you buy versus the area that it covers will get you. So 2 quick things. Make sure you have your tin snips and you read the instructions that are in each container of the material. The other thing is this guy right here. Now there's a gnarled one and there's a smooth one. Because of what I'm going to be doing in the future, I got the smooth one. But either way, having a roller makes that job way easier, and it makes sure that you properly adhere to the surface underneath. For my case, I've got bed liner. Like, this is a super rough surface, but this stuff, because it's rolled on there and it's good, it is like solid. And with the tape on the edge, there's no way this stuff is gonna ever come off. It'll be a nightmare if I ever actually have to take it off, but until then, it's solid and it's not going anywhere. So now we can move on to the next part of the project. Alright, so the last thing that I want to do for this video is dealing with my firewall. So we got the transmission tunnel insulation in, now we need some kind of heat barrier for the firewall. I do have 2 steps to this, just like I do for the transmission tunnel and the floor, but for now we're going to deal with just the outside of the firewall, and for that we are going to use these products. This is DEI's Reflectigold. It's a nifty deal. A lot of times you'll see people wrap it in air boxes or brake boosters or things like that. In this case, I'm going to be using it on the firewall. Now, this may or may not be the correct way to use this, but looking over all of the other products that they have and the colors, yes, I know colors, race car colors, but I wanted it to kind of match. So I have seen other people use this on firewalls, so we're gonna go with it. Like I said, there's gonna be an inside part of the firewall that will also help, but this way we'll have multiple layers and it'll look okay with this like golden brown that I got going on in the engine bay, as well as what the final external color looks like. That's another thing, is I wanted it all to match as well as be functionable to serve its function. So this is what we're going to go with. It's the same kind of concept as the transmission tunnel. You lay it down and then you use the tape to cover the edges to seal it as best as possible. This particular one, let me get this open here real quick. This particular one that I ordered comes in a sheet. I'm hoping this covers. Now that I look at it, it looks like it's even smaller than what I thought it was going to be. So we'll see. But the goal is to pretty much cover the entire firewall with it. But yeah, I have 2 packs of this, and we'll see if I need to order more or see how this goes. Once again, best to use a template, but once again, because my car is stripped, I don't necessarily need to adhere to the same rules as some other people, so we're gonna give it a whirl.
Take the pain. You wanna sink or swim? I'm gonna go down swinging. Look deep within. I get lost in the feeling. I just need a win. I'm gonna find my meaning. I can make a change. I wanna play the game. You wanna sink or swim? I'm gonna go down swinging. Look deep within. I get lost in the feeling. Just need a win. I'm going off. I know it's time to make a change, and I can take the pain. You wanna sink or swim? I'm gonna go down swinging. Look deep within. I get lost in the feeling. Just need a win. I'm gonna find my meaning. I can make a change. I wanna play the game, yeah.
Well, wouldn't you know it, I ran out of product again, but you can kind of see how it looks. There's that chunk that I'm missing there, and then down there I'm also missing a chunk. And when I did the measurements, I totally thought I had enough on this one. I thought I had more. I thought I was going to be able to use this stuff on some other things that I had laying around that I wanted to use it on. But lo and behold, once again, underestimated, not enough. So there, that is. You pretty much get the idea of what I'm going for. So yeah, I'm gonna have to order more of that along with the trans tunnel insulation. So I think I'm gonna call it a video on this one. In the next one, you'll see the final product as much as you can kind of tell what it's going to look like anyways, but I'll show you after I get the other stuff bought and installed, and then I think we're going to start putting some things back on the car instead of taking things off. So thank you for watching, thank you for support, and till the next one.